Okay, everybody, good evening. Hope you guys are doing well today. And we've got some Seattle Seahawks news. Not exactly breaking news at this point. This stuff came out several hours ago. Most people have already known about it for a little bit, but definitely worth discussing. And I wouldn't call it good news. I think some people will interpret it as good news. Some of it is definitely good, but I do think that some of this stuff is unfavorable at the least, or at least not ideal. But at the same time, this kind of stuff in football, in most sports, really is inevitable. When you are good, the teams that are not good come to try to take from you the things that you have because they want to try to make themselves good, and they look at your goodness and they go, we want to be like that. So we got some news about two Seattle coordinators, and the first is kind of expected. The second one, maybe not so much, but let's get into it a little bit here. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today, get to it, and go have some fun with sports this year. So let's start with Clint Kubiak. We've known that this was coming, I think, most of the season. Ever since it became clear Seattle was going to have a really good offense this year, and they did finish the season ranked third in points, we knew that Clint Kubiak was going to get at least some interest as a head coach. Well, now we can safely say that the interest is official, and teams, they view him as a potential head coach. So, per Albert Breer here in this tweet, the New York Giants, Arizona Cardinals, and Las Vegas Raiders have requested to interview Clint Kubiak. Now, yesterday we were told that the Atlanta Falcons had already requested to interview him. So now we know the Falcons are just one of many teams. So that's four teams as of right now that are at the very least intrigued by what Kubiak has to offer as a head coach. So, pretty good chance he could get one of those jobs. And keep in mind here that there are other positions that he has not yet interviewed for that he may get requested for at some point. The Baltimore Ravens fired John Harbaugh earlier today. So, if the Ravens look at Kubiak and say that's something that we want to bring in here, I don't think it would be a very good fit. I think Kubiak with Lamar would be a pretty bad marriage, but it's not impossible that the Ravens would be intrigued by what Kubiak has to offer. There are a couple other teams that don't have a head coach right now that could request an interview with Kubiak later. And don't forget that there are teams that could let their coach go after the first round, or I guess even second round of the postseason. And I imagine those teams would want to take a look at Kubiak as well. Now, one thing that goes on here is that these coaches who are on teams that have that first round bye, so basically anybody on Seattle staff or Denver staff, those those coaches can only be interviewed during this week. And after this week, when they'll be working again, they can't interview. So that's four requests for interviews. And Kubiak, supposedly, according to this tweet, his focus is on the playoffs, so he'll take a day or two and figure out a plan to balance all of it. So if he takes a couple of days to think about it, then you're already at Thursday, and then you get to Thursday, and it's like, we've only got a little bit of time until we get playoff games, and then before you know it, it's next week, and you got to be thinking about your opponent. So there's not a lot of time for him to get through these interviews. Now, understand that these interviews, I believe, are all conducted via Zoom, and they have a limited period of time that they can be conducted over. It's like a 2 or 3 hour window. So what's probably going to happen is he's just going to crank out these Zoom interviews over the course of maybe 1 or 2 days. and then he'll be able to move on and focus on his current job after he's done with that set of interviews. So I don't think that it's impossible or anything, because I'm pretty sure when you're still employed by a team, you cannot interview in person with other teams until their season is over. So if my understanding on that is correct, should be doable, and it shouldn't be an overwhelming distraction for Kubiak, because obviously that's something that we as Seahawks fans care about. And then once we get to next week, he cannot do interviews until either Seattle is eliminated or wins the Super Bowl. So shouldn't really affect anything too much. I know that there have been plenty of horror stories of coaches getting head coaching interest, or excuse me, coordinators getting head coaching interest while the playoffs are still going, and it presumably distracting them from doing their best job in their current spot. But when you break it down, there should be ample opportunity for Kubiak to do what he needs to do. So that's 4 teams that are currently intrigued by Kubiak. If Andy Reid retires, I think Kansas City would be involved in the Kubiak sweepstakes as well. And if Buffalo fires McDermott after they probably lose this weekend, and even if they don't lose this weekend, if they lose the next weekend, McDermott still might go. I imagine Buffalo would be intrigued by Kubiak as well. So one way or the other, guys, I think it's going to happen. Like, we spent some time talking this season about how we're hoping that maybe Kubiak would stick around, maybe that there wouldn't be a lot of head coaching interest in him because he's so young and inexperienced. Maybe one good year wouldn't be enough, but I always kind of felt like that he was going to be one of the top candidates, and it seems like teams have already jumped all over him. Now, part of the reason why they're jumping on him is he's one of the few guys that is actually available, because a lot of the other guys they want to interview are getting ready for a playoff game on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. No, excuse me, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And you can't interview those guys because they're busy. But the fact that you've already seen 4 teams in on Kubiak tells me that he's at least going to be able to get one of these jobs. Now, here's the question. How much does he want to be a head coach to the point that he would take one of these positions? I think the Falcons are a great spot in terms of their talent and their fit. I think that Clint Kubiak would do amazing stuff with Bijan Robinson. He's got a pretty good offensive line in place. Penix is, well, he could be good. I don't think he's good right now, but he could be good. That's an intriguing task for a head coach to take on. Drake London is there. They've got some really good stuff on defense. There's a ton of talent in Atlanta, but it's not exactly a good or stable organization right now. They've had troubles getting their feet underneath them ever since Dan Quinn left, and it's that's probably the best job of the bunch, right? Like, the Giants have been the second worst team in the league over the last 12 years. The Cardinals have been the third worst team in the league over the last 9 years. The Raiders have been probably the worst team in the league over the last 23 years. So you look at recent or even not so recent history, those are 3 of the most sad sack organizations in football. And there are ownership questions with all of those organizations. There are fundamental structural problems in all of those organizations. And on some level, I think that while it's hard to turn down a head coaching offer if it's there, you got to look at those positions and be like, that might be the only chance I get to be a head coach. And if it goes badly, and it can go badly, I might never get that shot again. I don't know if I want to waste my shot on a team with that many problems. Like, who are the good young players on the Raiders? John T. Doesn't feel like there's really that much else going on there that they're all that enthused about. They have cap space. They have the number 1 pick, but in terms of blue chip talent that's young, not really a lot. The Cardinals have a couple of guys, but they got ownership problems. They haven't been good in a while, and overall, it's just not a good organization, and they need a quarterback. And don't even get me started on the Giants. Like, they got Jackson Dart, they got Malik Neighbors, but other than that, it's like, what are you really that excited to work with there? And that's a team that has been unable to keep a head coach down for over a decade now. So it wouldn't shock me if Kubiak looks at these opportunities and is like, I can do better next year. But at the same time, it's so hard to turn it down when it's in front of you, and you can talk yourself into believing that I'm going to make it work. Now, this isn't the only news we've gotten today concerning this. We also got this from Rappaport. The Cleveland Browns have requested permission to interview Seahawks defensive coordinator Aden Durde for head coach. So the Browns fired Stefanski, who, by the way, I think Stefanski's really good. I imagine he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere, but Aden Durde is getting at least one head coaching interview request. And this one's a little bit more peaceful, I would say. If the Seahawks lose Kubiak, that's not fun. We're going to be looking for another offensive coordinator, our third straight year of looking for a new OC. And if we can't find him in-house, we might have to change the offense, which is not going to be fun. Like that is a dicey proposition in my book. I would definitely go so far as to say that we would suffer for losing Kubiak. And I know some people don't like him. I know that there are problems, but Kubiak has been very good overall this year, no matter how you want to slice it. But Aden Durde, while I do know that he has an impact on this team, he does not call plays for this defense. This is not his defense. This is Mike Macdonald's defense, and Aden Durde just kind of helps. And if you lose Aden Durde, you can probably find an adequate replacement, like from the old Ravens staff that Macdonald had when he was a DC there. Like there are guys like Anthony Weaver, there are guys like Orr. There are definitely guys out there that Macdonald could get for DC that he would feel comfortable with, and I think they would be able to be fine. And Aden Durde would get a very, very cool opportunity, although the Browns, not exactly the coolest opportunity out there, but Aden Durde doesn't call plays, so you wouldn't expect him to get the choice opportunities. And here's the other thing. If Aden Durde actually gets poached as a head coach by a team like the Browns, we would get 2 third-round picks out of it because he is a minority coach. And that's one of the rules in the NFL right now. If you have an assistant coach that is a minority and they get hired by another team as a head coach, the team that loses that coordinator gets 2 third-round picks. This is something that the 49ers have taken advantage of a lot over the years, and if Aden Durde is the next guy, then it's our turn. So I would say that losing Aden Durde and allowing him to have this opportunity, knowing that we're still keeping the play caller for the defense in-house with Macdonald, knowing that it's still Mike Macdonald's defense at the end of the day, and also knowing that we would get 2 third-round picks out of it, I think that's worth it. Like, that is something I would definitely be into. Like, I'm not afraid of that. I know some people really like Aden Durde, and I know some people want to keep him, and I do too, don't get me wrong. I think the dream is that one day you have a defensive coordinator that can call plays, so Macdonald can just focus on being a head coach, but that's not what we have right now, and I don't think we're that close to having that right now, so I think that this is a interesting possibility. And I don't think Aden Durde will get hired as a head coach this offseason. What this tells you, though, is that he may get hired for a head coach next year if the defense is good again. At a certain point, you, as an organization, just look at Aden Durde and you hope, man, all that knowledge that Mike Macdonald clearly has, hopefully some of it transferred over to Aden Durde. So it may not happen now, but this is a good indication it will happen eventually. And that's really about it right now. I haven't heard anything about Leslie Frazier, but expect him to at least get interviews. And I don't know exactly what the rules are there. Obviously, he's a minority, but I don't know if assistant head coach to head coach counts as a promotion in that way. So I don't know about the 2 third-round picks there, but it's interesting. All right, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. That's what's going on. Pretty cool stuff. I mean, look, I'm happy for Kubiak, and I'm happy for Durde. The fact that they're getting this attention indicates that people respect the job that they're doing, but it's never fun to lose your brain trust to other teams. All right, so see you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a good rest of your night. I'll be on Twitch later. See you soon.